The line at the burrito place moves quick. You've got your tray, 3 coworkers trailing behind you, people you've only known a couple weeks. You tap your card, declined. You tap it again, declined. The guy behind you, Marcus from accounting, laughs. Not cruel, just a laugh. Bro, you okay? You tell him you grabbed the wrong card. You didn't. You let someone else cover the $11 in change and you promise yourself you'll pay them back tonight. You don't. That's the actual turning point, not the decline itself, the laugh. Something inside you decides, standing right there in that line, that this can never happen again. You spend the next 2 decades making sure of it. Here's what nobody warns you about that kind of promise. You're 22, $640 in checking. $31,000 in student debt sits behind that figure like a shadow that never leaves. You're living in Cincinnati, a 2-bedroom split 3 ways. Your room barely holds the mattress and a dresser you found on a local buy-sell app. $17 an hour at a bookstore, plus weekend catering shifts whenever they're offered. The group chat is named Unit 12, Don't Leave Us Hanging. Every month somebody posts the utility bill in there. $310 split 3 ways. You see it. You mean to send your share that same night. You don't. 4 days go by, your part still hasn't landed. Nobody says a word about it. Then Dana, your roommate, is in the kitchen heating up leftovers, and she mentions, casually, not unkindly at all, "Hey, did the payment go through okay? The app's been acting weird for me lately." Both of you know that's not really the question. You tell her you'll send it that night. Instead, you send it right then, standing in the kitchen, phone in hand, her watching you type it in. That's the whole experience of being 22 and short on cash. Nobody hunts you down, nobody raises their voice. They just linger nearby while you transfer the money back, and you both act like that's completely ordinary. You're paying the bare minimum on your loans, $310 a month, coincidentally the same figure as the utility bill, which feels like a cosmic joke you never signed up for. The interest rate sits at 6.8%. Here's the arithmetic nobody explains to you at 22. At the minimum payment, $31,000 at 6.8% takes close to 19 years to clear. By the time it's done, you'll have handed over nearly $46,000 total. $15,000 of that is pure interest, money that bought you absolutely nothing. You don't know any of this yet. You just see the minimum due and pay it, because it's the figure that keeps your account from bouncing. Your phone buzzes one afternoon at work, a low balance alert. You're at the register and you flip it face down before your supervisor can walk by, quick, like you're hiding a text you don't want anyone glimpsing. Nobody was even nearby. You do it anyway. The unspoken rule at 22, nobody's watching your bank balance. They're watching how fast you Venmo them back. You tell yourself this is temporary. Everybody tells themselves that at 22. You reheat the same leftovers Dana just used the microwave for. You go to sleep. Another Tuesday tomorrow, you land the real job at 24. Badge, benefits, the whole package. $48,000 a year, direct deposit, a company laptop with the logo stamped on the lid. You move out, your first solo place, a studio running $1,100 a month, close enough to walk on the days your car won't cooperate. The car's a 2013 Corolla. It's fine, right up until it isn't. You park in the reserved section 3 times this week because the regular lot fills up before 7:30. There's a small sign that says, staff only. You sit in the car a beat before stepping out, checking the rear view, not fixing your hair, checking if security's heading your way. He's not. Not today. You check anyway. Inside, things are going well, genuinely well. Your manager, a guy named Phil, introduces you to a client and gets your name wrong. Twice, you laugh it off, correct him gently, and he says, right, already glancing at his phone. At lunch, you bring leftovers in the same container you've had since sophomore year, the lid slightly warped from years in the dishwasher. A guy from another department glances at it in the shared fridge. Says nothing, grabs his delivery bag off the counter, and walks out. Not a word said. You still notice. After that, you start bringing lunch in a plain paper bag. Nobody asked you to. Then the car makes a noise on the drive home, grinding low on the front right side. Brakes. $580, give or take. You don't have $580 sitting anywhere close to available. $0 in anything resembling an emergency fund because nobody ever mentioned that's something you build before you need it. The charge goes on the credit card, 23.99% APR. You tell yourself 3 months to pay it off. It takes 8. You shrug it away. Whatever. You drive to work the next day like nothing happened, because to everyone else, nothing did. Being overlooked and being suspected feel like opposite experiences. They're not. Same hand, different glove. You're doing better than 22. The paycheck proves it. But you still flip your phone face down when the banking alert buzzes at your desk, out of a habit that never got word that things had improved. 26 years old, $62,000 a year. A bigger unit in the same building, an actual bedroom door instead of a partition that doesn't reach the ceiling. You buy a couch, $1,100, split into 4 interest-free installments. At checkout, tap, and it's home with you today. You tap it. Then Alicia posts photos from her Cancun trip. You haven't spoken to Alicia in months. Story after story, infinity pool, 5 people from your old friend circle, all together. You weren't in the planning chat when they booked it. You ask if there's still room. There is. $1,260, flight and resort combined. It goes on the card. At the airport, waiting to board, you're scrolling and everyone's already posted their outfit shots from the resort lobby. You snap one too, standing at the gate, still in your travel clothes, and crop it so it looks like you're already there. Nobody asked to see it early. You just didn't want to be the last one posting. Your income climbed by $14,000 this year. Your spending climbed by $17,000. Nobody hands you a chart for that pattern. You just feel wealthier while ending up thinner in the account, and you can't quite explain the gap. The rearview mirror habit resurfaces, except now it's not security. It's before a first date from a dating app, checking your hair, making sure the lighting's right. Same motion, different reason. Funny thing is, you don't even clock that you're still doing it. Back home, someone in the group chat asks how the couch turned out. You say it's great. You don't mention the 4 remaining installments, one of which lands the same week as rent. Everyone else is running the same quiet edit on their end. None of you realizes it. You shrug it off. Whatever. Brunch again Sunday, same table, same performance. Nobody checking anyone else's math out loud. Social media doesn't watch you spend. It watches you not spend. That's the one thing it never forgives. You're not exactly behind, not exactly ahead either, just running slightly faster than the paycheck, telling yourself the gap will close on its own. It doesn't. It never does on its own. 28 years old, 1 in the morning, scrolling the banking app for no particular reason, the way you check things at that hour. The total stops you cold. $10,900 across 2 cards. You try to trace where it all came from and can't quite reconstruct it. A gym membership used twice, $55 monthly for over a year. A handful of delivery orders that felt harmless at the time. The Cancun trip still not paid off 2 years later. A replacement pair of wireless earbuds after losing the first set. No single decision was catastrophic. All of them together were at 23.99%. Paying only the minimum, $10,900, takes roughly 24 years to clear. You'll repay more than double what you borrowed, money that bought you nothing lasting. That week, you switch off the banking app notifications, not because you fixed anything, but because you didn't want to see it every morning at your desk where anyone passing could glance at your screen. Brunch that Sunday, someone asks how work is, how everything's going, and you say, "Good, really good, actually." You don't mention the number. Nobody at that table mentions their number either. You'd bet on it. Every phone sits face down on the table the entire meal, and it's not politeness. At 22, you hid that you had nothing. At 28, you hide that you have less than your feed suggests. There's a night, you actually open a spreadsheet, 2 balances, 2 rates, 1 total at the bottom. You stare at it a long while. You close the laptop, whatever. You'll deal with it once the bonus lands. The bonus does land eventually. More on that later. For now, you just shut the laptop, flip the phone face down on the nightstand, out of the same old habit, and fall asleep. Nothing new. Nobody's watching. You almost forget that used to be the entire point. 31 years old, 82,000 now, and a title that didn't exist for you 2 years earlier. Team lead. Your name shows up differently in Slack, a small tag underneath it, lead, as if that's supposed to change something about who you are compared to last Tuesday. An actual office, not a corner one, just a door that shuts. The 2 people reporting to you call you boss occasionally, half joking. You laugh along. By the 3rd or 4th time it happens, you realize they're not really addressing you. They're addressing the door and the fact that you approve their time off requests now. Then Ryan texts you, Someone you haven't heard from in almost 2 years. The message starts normally. How's it going? Heard about the promotion. Congrats. 4 messages in, warm and easy, like no time passed at all. 5th message. Any chance you could front him $750 just for a couple weeks, car trouble, good for it, You send it? Of course you do. But you screenshot the exchange first and text it to your brother with no caption, just the image, because you both already know his reaction. He replies with a single laughing emoji. That's the entire conversation. Neither of you needs to spell out the joke. You start running that same calculation on every message now from anyone you haven't heard from in a while. You hate that you do it. You keep doing it anyway. The company matches 4% on your retirement account. You're contributing exactly 4%, not because you calculated anything, but because that's the figure HR mentioned on your first day and you never revisited it. On $82,000, that match alone equals $3,280 a year, arriving whether you think about it or not. You bump your contribution up half a point that week. A small adjustment. Nobody's watching that one, which is sort of the appeal. You're doing genuinely well. But there's a specific quiet in this office with the door that closes, the quiet of being agreed with more often than you're actually known. Walking to your car some evenings, you wonder if anyone in that building would recognize you without the title attached to your name. You don't answer that one yet. You get in the car, check the mirror out of pure habit. 35 years old, you tally it up one Sunday evening. Index funds, the retirement account, the small rental property, $290,000 total. You don't share that figure with anyone, not even your closest friends. The rental is a 1-bedroom unit, $195,000 purchase price, renting for $1,350 a month. After the mortgage, the association fee, and the maintenance cushion, you clear roughly $380 a month without lifting a finger beyond the occasional text about a leaky faucet. $290,000 growing at something close to the long-term market average earns you about $23,000 this year without a single extra hour worked. You don't feel rich, you feel cautious. The friend group is planning an actual trip this time, a week in Playa del Carmen, split evenly. There's a fresh group chat for it. You weren't in the original version. You get added a day later once somebody says, "Wait, did we include them?" Nobody means anything cruel by it. You just notice. Then there's a second, smaller thread, 3 people, the ones who'd cover the deposit if somebody bails. You're added to that one instantly. You screenshot both chats side by side, no caption, and just stare at your own phone a second before closing it and returning to whatever you were doing. Every message that comes in now gets a half-second calculation before you respond. Is this someone genuinely checking in or someone checking in before an ask? You hate that you do this. You do it regardless. That's when it dawns on you. The wealthier the group chat gets, the smaller it gets too. Money doesn't buy you out of being watched, it just changes the price of the watching. You go to bed that Sunday having found the number, 290,000, and instead of feeling like you've arrived somewhere, you feel like you've simply discovered a new floor to stand on. There's always another floor. Whatever. You set an alarm. Monday again. 40 years old. 1.3 million spread across the rental, the retirement accounts, the brokerage, and the house you bought last year. The first one with an actual gate, 4-digit keypad, code you chose yourself, not your birthday, since your accountant half-joked people always guess birthdays first. Then Julian shows up, your closest friend since your second year of college. Passing through town, swings by without calling ahead, because the two of you never needed to. He pulls up to the gate. No code on his phone, no reason he'd have one. He calls you instead, laughing a little. Bro, your house has a bouncer now. It takes you about 40 seconds to buzz him through. 40 seconds isn't long, but something shifts in it. A small, specific distance opening between 2 people who used to just walk into each other's places unannounced. Later, out on the patio, his phone sits face up on the table the entire evening. Yours stays face down out of a habit so old now you don't even register doing it. He notices, says nothing. Just clocks it the way you used to clock things at other people's tables years back. Most of your 1.3 million isn't sitting anywhere you could access this week. It's tied up in the rental, in accounts you can't touch for another 2 decades without penalties. In a brokerage account you don't want to liquidate and trigger a tax hit on. On paper, you look prosperous. In actual cash, you're a lot closer to ordinary than the total number suggests. You and Julian have a great night, same jokes you've shared for 15 years. Driving him back to his car later, past the gate, past the keypad, you catch yourself replaying those 40 seconds again. You don't bring it up to him, you just carry it. The gate keeps out strangers. It keeps out nearly everyone else, too. 44 years old. You stop checking the banking app every morning, not because you've stopped caring, but because there's nothing left worth checking. An accountant manages things now, a woman named Carol, a brief 2-line summary each quarter, nothing more unless a real decision is needed. You used to know your balance down to the last dollar. Now you couldn't state the exact figure if asked. You don't say the number out loud, not to Carol, not to Julian, not to anyone. Once a number reaches a certain size, saying it aloud changes every conversation that follows. The phone rings on a Tuesday. Julian. You brace for it out of a decade-long habit, the half-second math on every call. Favor incoming. 4 warm sentences before the 5th one lands. It doesn't land. He just wanted to talk. His kid's soccer game. Free this weekend, no hidden reason behind it. You wait for the ask anyway. It never comes. Your phone sits face up on the counter through the entire call. You notice halfway through, you don't flip it over, you just let it sit there, screen lit. Nobody around to see it regardless. And somehow that detail catches in your chest more than anything Julian actually said. You spent 22 years making sure nobody would ever laugh at a declined card again. Somewhere along the way, you stopped needing them not to. You look out the window after hanging up. Nothing urgent waiting on the other side of it. No notification lighting up the screen. Nobody expecting a reply. Just an unremarkable Tuesday. The watching was never really the problem. It was the distraction. You're sitting in the car outside your own house, engine off, going nowhere, just sitting there a minute the way you do now. You glance at the rearview mirror, the same motion you've made 1,000 times before. Parking lot security, a first date, the garage door behind you. Nothing back there. Nobody to check for. Your phone sits face up in the cup holder. It's been that way a while now. You didn't place it there deliberately. It buzzes. Julian's sending a photo from the soccer game. No caption. Nothing underneath it. You look at it a second longer than necessary. You think back to that line at the burrito place, 22 years old, card declining, Marcus laughing. Bro, you good? You were so certain in that moment that the rest of your life would be about making sure it never happened again. It never did happen again. Somewhere along the way, you also stopped needing it not to. Nobody's watching. For the first time, that's not an escape. It's just a Tuesday.